technical advice.
OK.
About security. Banks and technology companies under pressure to do more to protect customers after a rise in mobile phone fraud.
It's quite frightening because criminals are finding ways to access the financial apps which are stored on our smartphones, then using them to steal hundreds, even thousands of pounds from victims.
Yes, we're joined now by Radio 4 Moneybox's reporter Dan Whitworth and cybersecurity expert Anish Chauhan. Very good morning to both of you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Dan, just tell us what we're talking about here, because immediately, as soon as people hear you start talking about mobile phone fraud, it's a worry, isn't it?
This is criminals who steal your mobile phone not for the value of the physical handset, but to try to access the financial apps on your phone. Because the handset, it might be worth a few £100, might even be worth £1,000. But if you're a criminal, you can get a lot more money through accessing people's financial apps. And some numbers for you both. So mobile phone fraud, as judged by UK Finance, which sort of speaks for the banks, speaks for the financial industry in the UK, is on the up, sharp increases. So last year, £45 million was stolen this way. That's an increase of nearly a third from more than 20,000 victims, and that number is up nearly two-thirds. So this type of crime is really growing sharply. Now, one person who is part of those numbers, a victim I've been speaking to, who had his phone stolen last year, it was pickpocketed from him on a night out. Police believe he was targeted beforehand, so criminals were actually it's called shoulder surfing. So they were looking over his shoulder, watched him type in his PIN. Later on, they stole his phone. He had £7,500 stolen from him. We're not using his real name. We're calling him Lewis, and he talked me through the impact of the moment he realised all that money had been stolen.
At the moment I realised the money had gone, my heart just dropped, and I couldn't really believe what I was seeing. My mum and grandparents saved up quite a bit for maybe like getting a flat or getting me started in life. So when it was stolen, everyone involved was distraught. It was absolutely horrible when you realise that everything that you've just saved up for is just gone in like a click of a finger, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
Well, it's worth, I suppose, Anish, you picking up on this, because you put a pin in, OK,
Yeah.
A lot of people now are very cautious about putting their PIN in public places. Not enough, obviously.
Yeah.
But you've also, personally, for my banking app, you need fingerprint ID and a password as well.
Yes.
So are not all of those apps as secure as that? Or as, you know, having many gates as that?
Yeah, I mean, they are, but there's a kind of inherent reliability that, OK, if it's a mobile device, we think it's pretty secure, right? But ultimately, the app that you're accessing is the same as you would if you were typing in a web browser, right? So it's the same back-end servers and things like that. But the key thing is it's this, you know, the apps and the pins and the Face ID and the fingerprint isn't a substitute for being aware of what's going on around you. So in that scenario that we saw, it was probably possibly a result of sort of, shoulder surfing, or somebody's seen, or somebody's targeted them. So it isn't opportunistic fraud, it's probably targeted, but it isn't a case of it's like unhackable, I suppose.
Well, what's the answer then? Just do not have any of those apps and do not have any of the data in your internet browsers?
I mean, you could say that, but it's not realistic. You know, we use our mobile phones for everything,
Yes.
you know, from unlocking your car to starting your car to buying your train tickets. And so saying, well, I'm never going to use my mobile phone to anything like that is one angle, but of course it's not practical. You know, we use it for everything, so it is being aware of how you're using it. You know, it's not a substitute. You know, the security isn't a substitute for being aware of what's going on.
Dan, we called him Lewis, didn't we? Did he get his money back from the bank? So what's the protection?
After a 6-month fight, he did, because if you have money stolen from you and it's unauthorised, so I'm on this sofa talking a lot about authorised fraud when people are tricked. He wasn't tricked. This money was stolen from him. Under the regulations, as a victim, you should just full stop get your money back. It took him a 6-month fight and for Moneybox to get involved before he was eventually refunded his money, following a police investigation, because the bank believed the phone was so secure. Oh, well, you must have been in on this, or you must have been grossly negligent, so you shared your password. So another thing that Anish was telling me before is a lot of people might store their passwords on their phone. obviously that's just a complete no-no. You must never do that. But the reason we're talking about this story today on Moneybox, certainly, is financial and technology companies are stepping up to the plate here. Yeah. So Apple, for example, earlier this year introduced something called stolen device protection. I'll just talk you through it briefly now. If you have an Apple phone, the way to get on that, and I've got some directions here, is you go to Settings, and then you click on Face ID and Passcode. And when you click on that Face ID and passcode, you'll have to enter your passcode. So again, this is another 6-digit number that you type in. And then once you've entered in your passcode, you get the option to turn on stolen device protection. Now, what that does is, first of all, that's opt-in. So you have to choose to do that. It's not a default setting, so you have to take a proactive decision. But that is crucial. If you turn that on, there is an hour-long delay upon any request to change key security settings. So if a criminal steals it out of your hand and your phone is unlocked and they can get access to some of your financial apps, or they try to change your Apple ID, or they try to change your passcode or remove Face ID, there's an hour-long delay if you have that particular bit of software turned on.
I don't understand. I'm sorry, you're going to have to explain. So, you turn it on, right, it's on. You go out, you've put your PIN in your phone or your fingerprint, and then someone steals your phone. So what, it takes them an hour to change?
No. So if they can access your financial app straight away because your phone is unlocked...
Right.
Well, they can... I mean, very often with mobile phone fraud, criminals will steal money within the hour, within 2 hours. This is a quick process. So, for example, Lewis, that's 7.5...
How does it know your phone's been stolen?
No, I think the idea is, if I just jump in, the idea is that you know that your phone has been stolen, so you've been pickpocketed, you know, we know where our phones are. In that scenario, you've got the opportunity to then contact your bank, go to get someone else.
Because there's an hour-long delay.
There's an hour-long delay. So that window of where the cyber criminals or the criminals act is the most critical, and that's when most of the fraud happens, in the moment between you realise your phone's gone or you don't realise your phone's gone and you haven't had the ability to report it.
Anish, you're the expert amongst us on the sofa here. Talk me through you using your phone. What do you, like, ordinary life?
Sure.
What do you do that maybe we don't?
First thing, never share my password or PIN. That doesn't happen, even if it's with your kids or your spouse or, you know, someone you trust inherently, because actually you might overhear someone, you might be in a restaurant, you might be in a bar and go, oh, can you go and pay for that? Have my PIN's da-da-da-da-da. And then someone else has heard that because you've said it to someone. So that's an absolute no. Don't store anything on your phone that's, once you're in, you can access. So I've heard this, and it's kind of horrified me, to be honest, that people store their PIN, banking PIN, their other PINs in notes in their phone.
OK.
And that's an absolute no.
What about, I'm trying to picture you at a place where you're putting your... What do you do? Are you like this? Are you crouching over you? How extreme do you go? Because people do this, you're just standing there.
No,
what do you do?
Yeah, so I am very aware of my surroundings.
Like what? Show me. What do you like when
Charlie, you're not walking down the street. Just so, for example, I know on Breakfast you were reporting 3 or 4 weeks ago about the increase in robberies in London. I think it was
by bicycles.
Exactly, about phones being snatched out of your hand. Being aware of your surroundings, absolutely key.
I think the point that Dan made before is it's nothing to do with the value of the phone, because people think that because it's an Apple device or whatever it might be, it's inherently secure, because Apple have set a fairly high standard, you know, let's face it, about, you know, it being secure. But that's not a substitute, like I said before. But then you're focusing on the fact that, oh, well, I've got mobile phone insurance, and so the handset that's worth £800 or £900, that can be replaced. But it's not the handset. It's all the stuff you've got access to from
and just a point on that about behaviours. Every single victim of mobile phone fraud I've spoken to, they've obviously been burned badly. None of them store financial apps on their phone. They keep them on devices that stay at home, or they log on and do it actually on a laptop or a computer. Because obviously for the convenience, we want everything now. Well, some people have taken steps to think, well, I don't want everything on my phone. If it gets stolen, that's a lot to lose.
I'm trying to think how people are reacting to what you're saying this morning. I'm not a very appy person, personally, but lots of people are going to be thinking, oh, my phone's full of apps, you know, listening to this. What do I do now? Just literally go through it all and get rid?
Well, I know you're going to answer loads of these questions, because I've got about 6 in my head already. You're both on Moneybox later, yes?
We'll both be on, yes.
We'll give you a list of questions in a minute to make sure you
problem.
cover them.
That's fine.
More on Radio 4's Moneybox, that at midday.